Slowly kisses busting by the river.
Hi everyone, my name is Bianca and welcome to my channel. In this video we're going to be discussing holding influencers accountable and specifically fashion influencers. Right now in the beauty community there is a lot happening on YouTube in the sense that Shane Dawson and Jeffree Star are being called out, but I don't want to be talking about that. I feel like it's very clear that one, that's a very difficult situation, and also that in situations where there are crimes or where the scams or scandals are very obviously wrong, then I feel like that's something that we know we're supposed to hold influencers accountable for. Like, for example, if someone is a racist, like Shane Dawson and Jeffree Star are racist and they've done things like blackface and saying slurs, then that's when you know that you shouldn't like subscribe to them and you shouldn't support them and you shouldn't follow them. Otherwise, you're probably a racist. Anyway, I kind of wanted to discuss holding fashion influencers accountable specifically, not for like any racial things. I don't know of any like people who have done like racist things in the past. Like these people have, that's like literally documented on YouTube. But I mean in terms of the ethical implications of participating in fast fashion. So what kind of got me thinking about this as well was that I've seen a lot of videos saying that Best Dressed, aka Ashley aka Best Dressed, who is one of my favorite YouTubers, a lot of things saying that she is problematic. And I was watching the videos. I specifically watched like J.K. Rowling's video, which made some good points, but I also thought unnecessarily like attacked her and her personality, which I thought wasn't necessarily good for their case. But yeah, so I was watching some videos on Best Dressed, and I think the biggest like kind of allegation, the claim against her and what makes her problematic to some people is that she spent a lot of time preaching not preaching, I don't want to say like she was preachy, but she spent a lot of time talking about and discussing sustainability and thrifting and ethical fashion, how important all of that is to her, and then she now has the money to shop sustainably, ethically all the time, and she is still working with fast fashion brands. She is still, you know, showing people fast fashion that they should buy, and she is still not shopping in an ethical or sustainable way. And I think that made a lot of people feel like she was being kind of hypocritical. The other thing was also that she worked with Amazon, which in light of all of her anti-capitalistic statements, as well as her statements against fast fashion, I feel like working with Amazon was a really bad move for her and her image. That's just like a personal opinion. I don't think she should have worked with Amazon, and the fact that she then deleted the video looks bad. Like, it looks like she knew that working with Amazon conflicted with her past statements and with her morals, and she wanted to run away from that problem rather than like facing it. Although we don't know, because there could very easily be like a contractual reason why she isn't discussing what happened with Amazon and why she took down the video and how she feels about taking that sponsorship, but I feel like she shouldn't have taken it in the first place. But yeah. And so I was watching all of these videos on Best Dressed, and then I saw a video on Kristen Leo, from Kristen Leo, talking about the fashion industry. And basically in that video she says that if a fashion influencer is promoting fast fashion, then they are promoting white supremacy. What was that? Okay, I had to call my mom because I got scared. Anyway, I don't think anyone's here. I think. Anyway, essentially what Kristen Leo said is that if you are supporting fast fashion as a fashion influencer, then you are supporting white supremacy, and you are supporting the systems of oppression, you are supporting the exploitation of people of color in other countries, you are supporting the like white domination of the fashion industry and like the continued like celebration and reverence of Eurocentric features and bodies, and you are kind of like basically all the stuff that we know the fashion industry is bad for, like all the stuff that we know the fashion industry does that is wrong, you are upholding it and you are celebrating it. And this was especially something that she made a really big point, was that this is especially true because fast fashion uses workers who are primarily women of color in other countries, and these are primarily low-income women who are oftentimes working in conditions of forced labor or for very, very, very low wages. They're working for far less than what their labor is worth, and they are never given the chance to like even fight for themselves or advocate for themselves, because when they do that, when they try to unionize, these factories will leave and they will go to another country where they can continue having low wages and no worker rights. And this is something that is prominent in the fashion industry. The fashion industry is actually one of the worst people who do this. Like, they are one of the worst people who do this, but this is something that is done all the time in all countries. In our own country, there are people working for less than what their labor is worth. There are people who are working in horrible conditions. There are people who are working in forced labor just to pick our vegetables or process our meat. So like, this is something that's prevalent in all industries because there is no such thing as ethical consumption under capitalism. Like, no siree. There is no such thing as ethical consumption under capitalism, but in the fashion industry, it is one of the industries that does this, and it is one that does this. Like, it is a really bad industry. The fashion industry is very bad for the environment and for the people who are actually producing the garments. And so, when it comes to holding influencers accountable, a part of me really agrees that there is no way that an influencer, especially influencers with millions of subscribers, should ever be promoting fast fashion. They should always be buying secondhand or buying from sustainable companies, which is another problem that I'll get into in a minute. There is a part of me that 100% agrees with that. But I also think that if a fashion influencer does that, then what's going to happen is the people who watch them are going to feel hurt or betrayed or upset or called out. If a fashion influencer does that, people will be upset because they will say, I do not have the money. I am a regular Joe. I don't have 3 million, 4 million, 5 million, 10 million subscribers. I am a regular Joe. I make this much an hour. I don't buy dresses for $200. And the whole idea of the influencer culture is to buy, and to always be wearing something new and to always be doing something new. And so every single time they're in their outfit where their dress costs $200 or their pants cost $400, the reason people look to fashion influencers is to be inspired, to know what's the latest trend and to know what to wear. The reason these people are famous is because they kind of show people what to wear and how they can obtain it. Like, so if a fashion influencer commits to only buying sustainable or only buying secondhand, then either they're buying pieces that no one else is going to be able to obtain because they're secondhand, or they're buying pieces that no one else is going to be able to obtain because they're so expensive. And while the thrifting thing I'll talk about in a minute, with the expensive sustainable fashion, a lot of people are going to feel hurt by that. I feel like a lot of people are going to feel betrayed by that, and a lot of people are going to say that we gave you a platform and now you are using all of this money that we essentially have given you by giving you this platform to not even fulfill your roles, fulfill the thing that we ask of you, the thing that we subscribe to you for in the first place. And so a part of me wonders if we will ever be able to force influencers into that accountability. And another part of me wonders if a lot of people even want to. I feel like most people don't want to. Most people don't want to like tell them to be sustainable. Most people want instead to know what to buy from H&M. And so influencers, in my opinion, influencers are actually really similar to politicians in the sense that they have money and fame and power because of the position that they are put in by people. People subscribe to them, people follow them, people give them attention, and because people give them attention, they are then able to gain things. Influencers, you know, they start from the bottom, most of them, and they have to work really hard to like get a following, and then that following is what supports them, very much like a politician, very much like anyone who just gets their power from a like large group of people supporting them. And in that way, I think would be very possible for people to demand that influencers do better. It would be very easy for people to demand that influencers stop buying new clothing every week and instead actually show people how to have a wardrobe that they continue to use, or have a wardrobe that's ethical, and have a wardrobe that aligns with their own, like with our moral values. But because we live in capitalism, and because we live in a culture of consumerism, and because influencers actually do perpetuate this by constantly buying things and constantly buying new things and constantly showing people trends that they need to catch up on, people don't feel that way. People don't feel like, oh, I need to demand that this influencer be more sustainable. I need to demand that this influencer stop buying so much and instead show us how to use what they already own. People don't really feel that way. Instead, people feel like, well, I need to get something new. I need the new thing. I need the new trend. And we all do this. I'm guilty of this. You're guilty. We're all guilty of this, I feel like, unless you are very committed to living sustainably or you're very committed to living ethically and whatnot. Most people do this, even if it's infrequently. But I do feel like we really could change that. I feel like we really could demand that fashion influencers stop doing these things, because I feel like our clicks, our views, our likes, they hold a lot of power for the people that we follow. And I feel like people could, if people shifted what they thought was important when it comes to social media and what they look for in an influencer, it would be very easy for us to kind of create a more sustainable and ethical culture in fashion. The other thing is that there is a problem with sustainable and ethical clothing in the sense that, one, there's a lot of greenwashing, there's a lot of lying. Like, as we recently found out, Reformation is it's not as great as it was made out to be by their own media and by influencers who have told us how much they enjoy it. And so that really should make us question, how sustainable are these companies for real? It's been found out that Everlane fired workers after promising that they wouldn't. It's been found out that Everlane is trying to bust up unions, and it leads to this kind of question of like, how do we even know what sustainable companies to trust when all they really want in the end is our money? And I feel like that's something where an influencer could actually be a really good tool and a really good person to tell you, these are the companies that are actually good and sustainable, and these are the ones that aren't. And that won't happen until influencers start advocating for that, and they start only promoting that, and they start looking for that. While I believe that people have a lot of power over what influencers are actually showing us and the culture around influencing and whatnot, I also, like I said, believe that a lot of people don't necessarily want sustainable or ethical fashion. I really believe that a lot of people do look for fast fashion options, and that's why so many influencers link them, and so many influencers promote them. And while I don't think it's okay for an influencer to do a runway or Shein or whatever those China sites are that are obviously very, very bad, I feel like a lot of influencers don't want to alienate their audience. They don't want to upset people. They don't want to seem like They're flexing their wealth that the audience has given them and only buying sustainably. And so people do tend to want like fast fashion alternatives because fast fashion is affordable. Fast fashion is accessible. I can go to the mall and I can go to 5 or 6 fast fashion stores and I can purchase what I need, versus if I go thrifting or something like that. Thrifting takes a lot of time. If I'm looking for a black skirt, I can go to the mall and be guaranteed that I will find a black skirt. If I'm going thrifting, there's no guarantee that I will find a black skirt in my size. I may need to go to multiple stores, which would cost me more time and gas money. And it's just not something that is accessible for everyone. Where I grew up, we did not have good thrift stores in the area. If I wanted to go to a good thrift store, I would have had to go to Dallas, which is, you know, like 45 minutes away from where I live. I don't know why I said that like you knew where I lived. But anyway, I would have to drive like 45 minutes away if I wanted to go to a good thrift store where I'm from. And so not everyone has that. And not only that, even online thrift stores like ThredUp, which I did, like I bought something from ThredUp and like I did like a haul of it and everything, but not everything that I bought at ThredUp fit me, and I did have to return it. And then when I did return it, they only gave me like store credit. They didn't give me my money back. So for some people, the $10 they spend isn't like a big deal and they can let it sit there and store credit. For other people, it is a big deal. For other people, not getting that money back is important. For other people, like, everyone's in different financial situations, and for a lot of people it's a lot easier to spend money at a store and be able to easily return it, to be able to go to a store and easily try things on, to have that option of I can go to the mall and find exactly what I need and that's it. And another question about that is, do we need to hold influencers to a higher standard than ourselves? So when it comes to fast fashion, I genuinely believe that it is very acceptable for people to buy fast fashion because of the system that we live in, because of the fact that fast fashion is one of the only feasible options for many people. And I think that we should not ever shame anyone for buying fast fashion in any like way, but that means that we're going to be holding these influencers to a higher standard than we hold ourselves or our peers, and should we? And personally, I do think that we should hold influencers to a higher standard than we're holding ourselves or our peers, especially really influencers with really large platforms. Influencers with millions of subscribers, we know, have the money, have the resources, have the ability to shop sustainably, to thrift. They don't have the same problems that other people have when it comes to not having accessibility. They're really able to get anything. And so for a lot of influencers too, doing fast fashion is about the paycheck. It's about this fast fashion company is going to pay me a lot more than, you know, ThredUp or any sponsorship with anyone else would pay me. For many of these influencers, promoting fast fashion is really about the paycheck. And like even for Best Dressed, that was really one of the main criticisms, is that people saw her promoting Urban Outfitters and Nasty Gal, these companies that are known to not have good ethical practices, who clearly go against what she has said in the past, and yet she continues to purchase from them even now that she has the money to never have to purchase from a fast fashion brand again. I think this really needs to be a time when fashion influencers need to come forward. They need to discuss the fashion industry and the problems and the racism and the way that it exploits people of color in other countries. They need to discuss why people should not buy from fast fashion, and they need to discuss why people need to consume less even if they are continuing to buy from fast fashion. And they do need to do it in a way that does not, you know, kind of shame people for buying for fast fashion, because there is not a problem with buying from fast fashion when it really is your only viable option, because we all need clothes. We do. And there's not a problem with buying from fast fashion, but there's a problem with the consumerist culture that we live in. And there's a problem with the fact that influencers continue to perpetuate this. They continue to perpetuate this culture of buying and needing new clothing all the time. And like Kristen Leo said, I think that influencers do have a responsibility to take a smaller paycheck and not accept these sponsorships and deals from fast fashion brands. These influencers need to stand up and they need to step up and they need to say that this is no longer something that they will support, and they need to educate people about why. And I don't think that we can expect them to be infallible. I don't think that we can expect them to never make mistakes, but I think that we should hold them to a higher standard, that we should demand more from them, and that when they continuously show us that they have no desire for change, then we should, cancel them. We should deplatform them. And you kind of have to, and I mean, it does demand that we hold influencers to a higher standard than we hold ourselves or our peers. And it will not be easy for them to be perfect, quote unquote perfect, because we do live in a system of capitalism where it's very hard to consume ethically, where our options are so limited that many times it feels like there is no way to consume ethically. But it is something that we need to ask of influencers, and that I really hope influencers will start volunteering and doing themselves, because it really is unreasonable in this year when you have that amount of money to continue to promote. I'm hearing like this sound over here. It is really unreasonable in this year when you have that amount of money to continue to promote fast fashion and also to continue to promote consumerism. There's no need that a fashion influencer or a fashion blogger needs to continuously buy new things and make other people feel pressured that they need to continuously buy new things as well. I think even if you can't be sustainable and you can't shop ethically, you can consume less. And I feel like that's something that influencers could at least talk about, they could at least discuss. And I really do feel like they have to stop taking these sponsorships, they have to stop taking these collaborations, they have to stop linking these products and making money off of it for any of this to like even feel genuine. Like, stop promoting fast fashion, because it's not acceptable, and it's not acceptable for the environment. It's not acceptable because of what fast fashion does to people. People are literally harmed. And like I said, there is no ethical consumption under capitalism. I can't go to the grocery store and buy vegetables and consume them ethically because they were probably picked by people who are in horrible conditions or who maybe are even in forced labor conditions. But there's a big difference between the vegetables that I need to live and the fashion that I don't need, the fashion that none of us needs. I love fashion, I love buying clothes, I love consuming things, I love being a capitalist hoe, like I love it. But there are people who are genuinely being hurt by these actions. There are genuinely people who are being harmed, and even we have consumed so much that even thrifting, do you know what happens to clothes when they leave the thrift store? Because not all of those clothes get bought. They get sent to other countries, and where they do get sent to, they get sent to countries in the global south typically, where a lot of the clothes that we have, they don't even need, because they don't need the winter coats, or they have way too many women's clothes and not enough men's clothes. And so all of those clothes still end up being waste. When you donate clothes to a thrift store, that doesn't mean that you can automatically go buy new ones, because those clothes still end up being wasted most of the time. I don't think that asking for less consumption, asking for truly ethical consumption is going to be easy for anyone. It's not going to be easy for me. I don't think it's going to be easy for most people because of the culture that we have grown up in, because of the way that we look at fashion. But I think it is something that is really necessary, and it's something that people with influence, people like influencers, should be discussing and should be doing. And it's really commendable that there are people who are doing that. But it's really problematic that the most popular people out there are just people who continue to like perpetuate this. And jumping back to Ashley really quick for a second, I do feel like she is probably, based on what I've seen from her videos, it does seem like she's really like struggling with this, with the idea that she is contributing to capitalism and she's contributing to consumerism and she's contributing to the bad parts of the fashion industry, while at the same time she loves fashion and she loves her job and she loves what she's doing. And so I think even an imperfect kind of utilization of this, you know, this discussion, even talking about this and discussing this, even if it's imperfect, even if it comes and brings you like a lot of criticism, even that is still a worthwhile discussion. People are criticizing Ashley because of the things that she has said in the past, but I still think that what she's talking about is really worthwhile because she is one of the largest influencers who is talking about that. I'm pretty sure, probably. She's one of the largest fashion influencers who is talking about that, and I think it's something that she should do more of. I think it's something that she hopefully isn't afraid to do more of with all of these videos coming out about like, oh, she's problematic because she's hypocritical and these are the etc, etc. We can't be perfect and we shouldn't expect her to, but she is trying, which I think is commendable. So that is it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Please let me know what you think down in the comments, and in the description I will have a link where you can register to vote, and I will also have links about the Black Lives Matter movement and ways that you can support. Bye y'all!